Big Hippo Music presents In Country Music We Trust with your host, J.J. Como. Today we sit down with artist Davis Corley. You're not going to want to miss his live performance. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm J.J. Como and you're watching In Country Music We Trust. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Davis Corley. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, JJ.
Davis hails from Knoxville. He's the 2017 Alabama Songwriter Shootout, actually the Gulf Coast Shootout. He's a frequent performer at the Bluebird, and he's a great songer. I've written many songs with him, and he's one of my favorite. So Davis, what brings you to Nashville from Knoxville?
Man, I just always wanted to be a songwriter. When I was a kid, my dad was a worship pastor, and he would drive to Nashville to take vocal lessons. And I would always come with him, and I'd go sit in his lesson, and afterwards we'd go to the Bluebird or the Commodore Grill and hear songwriters. And I remember singing Don Schlitz at the Bluebird when I was, 10 or 12 or something, young. And I just knew then that I wanted to be a Nashville songwriter when I grew up. So it's kind of what I've always wanted, what I've always focused on and dreamed about. And growing up, I just always loved my dad's records. And I loved great songwriters and great songs. I never listened to pop music or the radio, really. You know, it was always digging into the past, digging into craftsmen, that have been influences and inspirations to me over the years. So it's what I've always wanted.
Yeah, for you at home, if you don't know who Don Schlitz is, he's one of the greatest writers of all time. He wrote The Gambler, one of my favorite country songs of all time. So he knows, he's got good taste here, Mr. Davis Corley. Now he's got a new album out. It's called The Blacker Side of Blue. It just dropped in October, am I correct?
That's right.
And it was produced by Elliot Balafas.
Yeah, Elliot and I co-produced it and played almost everything on it.
Now Elliot is a great talent himself. I really adore his music. How was it like performing and playing with him and going through the creative process?
Man, it was great. It was really refreshing. Initially, Elliot just wanted to be in my band, and so we just talked about working up tunes, and we were kind of doing some pre-production in his basement studio at his house. And the plan was to take everything into a real studio and a real producer and do it properly. But about 2 or 3 songs in on just doing pre-production, it was like, man, this sounds good. Like, this stuff is sounding great. We've got all the time in the world here. We're not renting the studio space. And so we spent a long time on the record, but we really became dear friends in the process. And so it was really cool. It felt like the old way of making a record where you just hold up for months and months and months and got it right, and something that has kind of gone away a lot in the times of perfect session players. Those guys are just amazing, and you go in and lots of people cut a record in a few days, and that's just that's one way to do it for sure, but it was really fun having the freedom to take time with it.
No, man, I really appreciate that. I recorded with a guy named Eric Lichter in Connecticut, and he kind of had the same method of just the mistakes are beautiful. He would talk about Neil Young and how Neil Young, you could hear some of the mistakes, but they work, man.
Yeah.
And in your album, I don't hear any mistakes, but it sounds awesome. And the songs, let's talk about the songs a little bit.
Sure.
The themes are murder, revenge, suicide, depression, and then the other half of the album is sad. Is that fair to say?
That's pretty fair to say. There's a couple sweet moments on there, but yeah, I've always been a melancholy person. I've always been drawn to melancholy music, and I guess that's what comes out a lot of times. I think some of the greatest songs are sad songs.
Tom Douglas once told me the greatest songwriters are the best readers. What are you reading these days?
Man, I'm not reading as much as I should be lately, how life gets, but growing up it was just the classics, Fitzgerald and Hemingway and Bukowski,
And that's why we like to write, because we like the same authors, man. So one of my favorite songs on the album is Ride On. Where did that come from?
Man, that was it's actually the only solo write on the album, which is funny, and co-writing town. Everyone writes by themselves and moves here and stops. But right on, I went and saw. I'd been in town a year and a half maybe, and went and saw Tony Lane at the Commodore Grill, and I never heard Tony before. But people had told me that he was the best songwriter in Nashville, so I had to go see him. I was just completely moved by his set, inspired, and I could tell that he was playing in an open tuning, and so I went home and put my guitar in open C and just started writing. It was the first time I played an open C, and I was just figuring it out, and wrote right on that night. So it was kind of cool because it kind of came out of a moment, that super fresh moment of inspiration with hearing Tony Lane for the first time, and Tony's been one of my inspirations and heroes ever since then. So it's kind of a cool, really the header of a chapter in my development as a writer. So
awesome. Another song I really dig is "Clean." Mm-hmm. Where are you coming from on that song?
Man, clean. It's just a metaphor. It's about trying to get rid of somebody, just like an addiction. You know, to there be pills or alcohol or whatever your poison is. But a few years ago, I was going through a hard time with a breakup and everything. And that's kind of where a lot of that came from. I wrote it with a good friend of mine, Laura Vance, who was one of my first co-writers ever. We met at NSAI spring training when I was in high school, I believe, or maybe early in college, and been writing with her for a long time. So that was a fun day getting that.
So Davis, we were talking about writers who inspired you. You said Tony Lane being one of them.
Yeah.
Who else in town do you really think is great and get you excited about songwriting?
Man, there's so many great writers here. You know, it's just a town full of talent. Tony, Travis Meadows, Chuck Hannon, Mark Stephen Jones, Stephen Dale Jones, Chris Gantry, Don Schlitz, as we talked about. I mean, there's so many great writers here. It's hard to think of everybody on the spot. But I've never even been a huge country music fan. It's the funny thing. Like, I listened to it a little bit. My mom listened to country music, and my sister did growing up. But I've always just loved great songs, and so there's been historically lots of great songs in country music. So I've always appreciated that. But I've never been like a fan of country as a genre exclusively. I've never loved country songs because they're country. It's because they're great songs. Growing up, I remember being a kid, being in middle school, and being in my room painting models, these little metal soldiers, and I was in there, and my grandma gave me Ultimate Manilow, Barry Manilow's greatest hits, and I was in middle school painting my little metal soldiers and listening to Barry Manilow, and just imagine how weird my parents thought I was, but that's a great songwriter.
That is a great songwriter.
And those have always been my favorites, the great writers, whether it's Manilow or Rod Stewart, people, other people of that time, or all the great songs that Sinatra did. From that stuff to Jackson Browne and Townes Van Zandt and Guy Clark and Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen and Dylan and Mark Knopfler, like the great songsmiths of American history, or not exclusively American history, but of the modern music scene. I've always wanted to be in that club. Like I don't want to be Luke Bryan, I want to be Mark Knopfler,
No, I hear you there, man.
But that's the beautiful thing about Nashville becoming so diverse, and there's so much controversy and struggle about old country or versus traditional country versus pop country or bro country, and this isn't country. And I don't have a problem with the music industry right now. People, the industry puts out what people want, what people buy. It's a business, and lots of that modern country is very catchy and makes you feel good. It makes you tap your toes. It's got a great beat. So I don't have any animosity towards that per se, but I do wish there was more great songs. There isn't a lot of great songs by those 70s, 80s, 90s standards.
Sure.
And I don't know. I'd like to see us get back to some of that.
I mean, once in a while though, a great song does sneak out. You think of the House That Built Me in the last 10 years. That song really stood out for me, and of course, on the radio, you'll hear those great songs. I think of the band Lanco. Man, I like what they're doing right now. And it's country, almost alt country. It's not exactly what's going on in the radio now, but it's crazy good.
Yeah, and you've always got, I was talking yesterday, I was in the studio and hanging out with a writer in time, Charlie Chamberlain, who's a great guy, runs a studio half the time and writes the other half the time, and we were just talking about the music business, and we were talking about it in context of mixing and audio recording, and we were listening to some old records, and I was like, man, it's so funny that with 50 or 60 years of technological advancement in the field of audio engineering, that like we still look to the old stuff as what sounds the best.
Well, it's true, man. You go back, and I don't know if you saw that documentary about Sound City with David Grohl, but man, the Neves console, the way they did it in analog, it just sound better. It sounds better, and it holds up. Those albums hold up, and the stuff today, I kind of feel like, I don't know if you agree with me, it's like fast food compared to like a gourmet dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
When I was taking yesterday when I was talking with Charlie, I took kind of I was being a little pessimistic about it, a little glass half empty, and saying that I thought maybe it's because with so much technological advancement and access to things, and how affordable recording has become as far as anybody's ability to, $4,000 have a quality rig in their house that they can record with, and so I was kind of blaming it on that. Well, anybody can do it now. Like, the bar's not as high for somebody to get into making music, and Charlie said that was a little cynical, and that he thought that it was just because there's so much more now. Like, you just hear so much more stuff. You just have to dig harder. Like, there's still just as much good stuff, and the good stuff is just as good as it was 50 years ago. You just have to find it now. And that really changed my mind. He was right yesterday, and I was wrong. And I love that perspective that he had.
Well, you guys, you found it right here. You need to go out and get The Blacker Side of Blue by Mr. Davis Corley. It's a wonderful record. And would you perform a couple songs today for us?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to.
All right, man. Stay tuned.
Cool. Thank you for letting me play this guitar, man.
No problem.
Beautiful. This is called Amy, Queen of Abilene. This old world is mean and dark. A drifter's life is cruel and hard. Sometimes a man needs somewhere soft to land. Can't count the times I paid the price just to spend another night sheltered by Amy's knowing hand. She feed me gin and opium, make me feel at home. Amy, Queen of Abilene, in the red dragon black satin robe. Scales would come alive when she'd move her hips in the crimson light. Wrap me in the comfort of those wings. I believe that silk embroidery held a thread of every mystery, and heaven held and all it's in between. She brushed my hair there in her lap with an ancient ivory comb. Amy, Queen of I came to find. After all these years, Amy is standing untouched by the wreckage of time. No mortal soul could ever know just how old she really is. She knew me with all of the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes lived. In the red dragon, black satin robe. This one's a post-apocalyptic love song. It's called Cigarettes and Kerosene. When the sirens scream for World War III, I'll ring that mission bell and hold the gate until you make it safe out of that hell. We'll make it to the fallout shelter and cry for those who don't. Try to build a home there in a cold, dark catacomb. Life would be so easy, you and me safe down below. The twilight and the winter of the world we used to know, that has nothing left to offer us, nothing left to give, except isotopic water and that old familiar wind. We hold the fire, thank the Lord. Blessed be the soldier who fights a futile war. We make a life behind the door. Blessed be the lover that loves on beyond the storm. Our love grows so strong if love was really all we had. I'd venture out to buy you frozen flowers when you're sad. From the bandits on the surface, desperate for a touch of heat. Money doesn't spend, just cigarettes and kerosene. We hold the fire, thank the Lord. Blessed be the soldier who fights a futile war. We make a life behind the door. Blessed be the lover that loves on beyond the storm. With the rations all but empty, there's nowhere left to run. but the steep edge of the canyon or the hard end of the gun. But as long as you're beside me, I'm content to waste away on a bed of thought-out flowers behind the sanctuary gate. Again, here's clean. The TV's bright and I'm too high to focus, so I turn it off and down another drink. All the shots and rocks that your love left me hopeless. There's a poison in my blood, still stubborn in my veins. I've been looking for a reason, looking for a way to dig out of the mess of the bed we made. Cut you off, drown you out, try to live your half-life down, count my steps and make my peace, kill myself trying to get clean. You took the dresser, dumped out my drawers. I'm learning hard just how easy it goes. Now I'm waking up again here on the floorboards. One too many mornings, a needle on the stereo. I'll turn it up, drown you out, try to live your half-life down, cross my heart and hope it bleeds. Without you, what's left of me? Shaky hands and blurry lines, every shot a suicide. Count my steps and make my peace, kill myself trying to get clean. Kill myself trying to get clean. I've been looking for a reason, looking for a way to dig out of the mess of the bed we made. Cut you off, drown you out, try to live your half-life down, cross my heart, hope it bleeds. Without you, what's left of me? Shaky hands and blurry lines, every shot a suicide. Count my steps and make my peace, kill myself trying to get clean. Kill myself trying to get clean. The TV's bright and I'm too high to focus, so I turn it off